Welcome to another episode of Andy Beshear Presents. I'm John Fugelsang. It's so great to have you here. And let me begin by quoting the governor himself. Trump is stuck in a war of his own making and has greatly strengthened the very country he claims is a threat. Prices continue to rise, crushing Americans who are working hard but not getting ahead. Americans' voting rights are being eliminated by the Supreme Court and threatened by congressional action. That's the kind of talk that made this man win twice in a state that went for Trump 3 times. People, please welcome one of the most popular, one of the most spiritually intelligent, demonstrably Christian, electable progressives in the United States, the author of the upcoming book, Go and Do Likewise. It's Andy Beshear. Governor, good to see you.
John, thrilled to be back with you. I really want to take you on the road for that introduction. You got my self-esteem as high as I could ask. No, but I always love this discussion because we talk directly to the American people. We take their questions, we level with them. And as you quoted my letter, there are really concerning things going on out there right now. And so I hope over this next hour, we can bring at least a little bit of comfort to folks, make a little bit of order out of the chaos, and admit where our country needs to make major changes.
Well, I'm always grateful to spend any time with you because I'm a big fan of the way you destroy Republican stereotypes. And I'm very excited that your book's coming out in September. I'd like you to consider writing a book called How to Win Red States Without Becoming Weird, but that's another conversation we should have off the air. Obviously, Governor, I have deep respect for you showing up when the entire country is talking nonstop about Senator McConnell. He's now been absent for 45 days, hospitalized since June 14th, and his office said on July 12th that he was recovering from a fall and a mild case of pneumonia. His office, as you know, insists he's working remotely. They've stonewalled requests for more information. The staff won't say what caused the fall. They've released questionable images, including at least one that's transparently AI. And throughout all of this, the Republican Party is down a vote in the closely divided Senate, and all eyes have been on you, sir. You have really been in the middle of a firestorm over this, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of very good people who are spreading a lot of different conspiracy theories and debate and confusion and disinformation about procedure, Kentucky law, and what a governor can do in this situation. So I guess the most important part I want to start off with is, let's just tell our listeners, Mitch McConnell's in a hospital in D.C., sir, right? Governor,
That's right.
He's not in Kentucky. He's in Washington, D.C.
That's right. So Mitch McConnell has been gone from work for 6 weeks. And anybody who's listening, if they missed work for 6 weeks, would have to call their boss, explain what's been going on, and then talk about when they can get back to work. Well, Mitch McConnell's boss are the people of Kentucky. They deserve to know that he has the competency and capacity to continue. And this is a problem of his own making. He has fueled this fire by refusing to even call in to a news station for 3 minutes. He supposedly had a 17-minute conversation with the protege, but not even 3 minutes for the people of Kentucky or the American people. So I've now sent multiple communications, the last one saying either you need to do this or to resign. Now, as governor, I can't create a federal vacancy, a state officer declaring a federal office vacant. That can only happen through a death, a resignation, or a vote of expulsion from the Senate. That's right. The Senate is responsible for making sure that each of their members has the ability to do their job. So I've also called on John Thune, the majority leader of the Senate, who is in D.C., where that said hospital is, to go to see how Mitch McConnell is doing. And if Mitch won't report on it, John Thune has a duty to do that because the Senate, I believe, is required to make sure that each of their members can actually serve out their term. So I'm doing my job as Kentucky's governor to call for transparency, to ask for a little bit of honesty from Senator McConnell. But I do want to point out that those that are out there saying, call a special election, call a special election. First of all, I can't do that without there being a vacancy, which the Senate declares. I have a Republican Secretary of State who would have to run said election. But it's one of those things where just because something kind of feels good that you're taking action doesn't mean it's the strategic thing. If Mitch McConnell was in this position, if the shoe was on the other foot, he would be ruthlessly tactical. And right now, with Mitch McConnell's absence from the Senate, there is one less vote for the SAVE Act. There is one less vote for a replacement to a conservative justice. There's one less vote to continue this war in Iran. And in a special election where Democrats haven't won a Senate seat since 1992 in Kentucky, you are likely to get someone much more beholden to Donald Trump. So
right.
I'm trying to do the right thing by bringing pressure for honest, direct responses from McConnell. But I also want people out there to know that we've got to make sure we do the smart thing in such a difficult time where we face such challenging issues as a nation.
So, Governor, what you're saying is then you are not going to go leave your state, fly to D.C., dress up in a doctor's costume to sneak into a hospital, somehow locate the room, and on your own achieve proof of life from Senator McConnell. Is that what you're saying? You're not going to – John Thiel can put on a doctor's suit and sneak into a hospital, I guess.
What I found is, as governor, it's pretty hard to sneak into anywhere. You have a decent number of people around you, the security and the rest. But no, breaking into a hospital is not something that anybody ought to do. And listen, I respect people's privacy about their health, but when you run for one of these jobs, you give some of it up. That's what you do. But I am applying pressure. Part of what we're seeing is because I'm pushing. But let me mention one last thing, and that's that Mitch McConnell cares about his legacy, and he's ruining it. Listen, I think his legacy is one of over-politicizing everything in the Senate. I don't think it's a positive legacy. But I know he thinks his legacy is being the longest-serving majority leader in the Senate's history. Well, guess what? On his Wikipedia page 5 years from now, that's going to be a paragraph. But what we're going through right now is going to be a page.
So true.
And, you know, today I was also asked to respond to Rand Paul saying I was grandstanding on this. Well, Rand Paul is another Republican U.S. Senator from Kentucky in D.C. right now. Mm-hmm. He hauled in an 85-year-old Anthony Fauci saying, you must answer to the people of America, and he won't do the same for Mitch McConnell.
That's it. And again, Rand Paul is much geographically closer to the hospital to check on Senator McConnell than you, sir. I also want to say, on behalf of everyone at SiriusXM, we hope that Senator McConnell has a full recovery.
Absolutely.
We hope he's okay. We're not hoping anything bad happens to him. But strip away all the politics for a second, Governor. I mean, this is ultimately about one simple principle, that 4.5 million Kentucky citizens deserve to know whether one of their senators is actually capable of representing them.
It's about being able to do your job. That's Mitch McConnell's obligation to prove to us, the people of Kentucky, or resign. And it's the Senate's job to uphold the Constitution that people meet the requirements of being a senator. Both are failing right now.
You are not asking the senator to release every medical record. You're just asking for proof that he's capable of carrying out the duties.
2 minutes of a video on your cell phone saying, hey, Kentucky, I'll be back to work soon. Calling in. John, you ought to call into your show. That would make for some good conversation, but he could call in anywhere. I'm not even calling on him to call into a place that will be hostile. All we're asking is that you can communicate, you can reason, you can fill out the rest of this term.
We have a lot of callers who want to say hi to you today, Governor. But before I do, I just want to point out one very crucial thing that you've been saying in your appearances, that Senator McConnell's absence has not exactly hurt Democrats politically. Every one of these close party line votes in the past 6 weeks has been happening without McConnell. There's a bit of an irony, isn't it? The senator who changed the Supreme Court from 9 to 8 for a whole year has now changed the Senate from 100 to 99 for 6 weeks.
It is. It's almost ironic in different ways. And you have some Republican senators like Josh Hawley saying, wait a minute, we need to know what's going on. But as I look at it, it's also an example of how government is broken. I mean, that the Senate wouldn't check on one of their members in their capacity, that this is somehow beyond anything that they would do, shows how broken it is, and that people go there for way too long. We've talked about this before. I think we need a fix the darn country constitutional amendment. And I know some say, oh, constitutional amendments are hard. But they come out of times of turmoil, and we are in one right now. And I'd like to have something that can actually get us in a much better place. So how about term limits, not just for senators, but for the Supreme Court too. Everyone needs them, so we're not gaming the system. Outlaw partisan gerrymandering. Voters choose their representatives instead of the other way around. Overturn Citizens United. I mean, those are three things that together could get us back on the right path, and we wouldn't be dealing with situations like this. These are not lifetime jobs. There should not be lifetime appointments, and we've seen the problems with both.
I think you'd find a lot of conservative brothers and sisters who would agree with you on that, Governor. I have many more questions about procedure. I have learned more about how these things work in your beautiful state than I ever thought my brain could contain. But we have so many folks who want to say hi and have their own questions for you. Rachel is calling from Los Angeles. Rachel, hello and welcome. You're live on SiriusXM with Governor Andy Beshear.
Well, hello. Hello, Mr. Beshear. Nice to talk to you. Thank you for being here. Yes, and I think I agree that it seems like we're better off just to let the seat go unfilled. I mean, if you do that, does that mean that then they can fill it? I'm confused on how that works.
Thank you for the question, Rachel. I mean, yeah, what happens if it were to sit unfilled? If the senator wasn't able to return to the office, might it sit unfilled until January?
Rachel, thanks for calling in and thanks for caring. And I will say when we see all this online, it's because people care and care deeply, and I get that. And people feel so unsettled in what's going on in the country right now that this is something where a senator won't even tell us that they are doing okay or prove it. They can just push people over the edge, and I understand how that feels. So nothing can be done unless the Senate declares a vacancy, unless we have a confirmed death, resignation, or expulsion. If that occurs, then it's questionable under Kentucky law whether we have to have a special election or whether I can make an appointment. And I'll break that down for you. My state legislature has changed their mind about 4 different times trying to figure out how they could remove authority from me on making one of these decisions, how they could favor themselves as Republicans the most. So currently they have a statute that says I've got to call a special election unless it's after, I think, August 4th, in which case the general election would suffice. But there's a section of our Constitution that says when there is a statewide vacancy, the governor has the power to appoint. Now, I believe that applies to state and federal offices. Others disagree and think that it doesn't apply to the federal. Now, that August 4th timeline, that doesn't impact the potential ability to appoint whatsoever. But we don't even get to that point until we know that there is that official vacancy. But I really like how you pointed out that with where our country is right now, one less vote for the war in Iran, one less vote for the SAVE Act, one less vote to replace a conservative justice with a more conservative justice in the worst outcome. And I say all that, pushing for him to do the right thing because Kentuckians are going without one U.S. senator, one I disagree with. And so I'm trying to do the right thing by my job, but also point out whether or not this is hurting or helping Democrats in the Senate.
It's also good to know that governors don't have the power to declare people dead.
And John, could you imagine? I'm a state officer. If a state officer could vacate a federal office, and what type of malfeasance and hijinks we would have seen in our country by now if that had happened. When a governor might disagree with a senator and say they're out of their mind, therefore the office is vacant, and what could have occurred from there. And so this is a difference between federal government and state government, but also a very clear example of how the federal government is currently broken.
Let me go to Ted in Delaware on line 5. Ted, hello and welcome. You're on with Governor Beshear.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Governor, I respect you. I like you. I hope that you continue to do well in your work. However, I have a question, or first of all, a comment, and that is I live in a neighborhood with a number of older folks. And if one of those neighbors had not come out of the house, one day I might let it go. 2 days I might let it think they're away. A week or a month goes by and I start to see papers pile up, I start to get concerned. Now, it's above my pay grade to go and pronounce them dead or some other way missing. However, why can't I get some authority to go to the house, open the door, and find out whether that person is alive or not? It's not asking you to do it, Governor, but it's asking somebody somewhere to give us the information. And again, we're not just talking about the health of a possible neighbor. We're talking about the health of our country and our democracy. So why can't we, why isn't there not something proactive? Woe to me if I let a late neighbor lie in their house dead for several days and not do anything because, oh, well, they didn't answer my calls.
Oh, I get it. And that is exactly what we're facing. And that's why the frustration is out there. You know, a governor of Kentucky doesn't have the authority to go up to Washington, D.C. and push through a hospital room. But John Thune, as head of the Senate, has a direct obligation, if not the vice president, as head of the Senate, to ensure that every member has capacity. And those are the people that aren't doing their job, that have a duty to right now. And I don't want to fuel the speculation out there, but when I demanded that John Thune do it, and I would suggest that everybody online pile on there, because that is a person who is ignoring his job. And J.D. Vance, but none of us expect J.D. Vance to actually do any job. But when you look at John Thune, he said this is between the people of Kentucky and Mitch McConnell. That is a concerning answer. It wasn't, I've talked to him and he's okay. It was, this is between the people of Kentucky and Mitch McConnell. So I want you to know that I continue to apply pressure. I'm going to continue to apply pressure to everyone who has the authority to do that. I'm not throwing my hands up and saying there's nothing that I can do. I am trying to explain what my authority is and is not, but that does not mean I am not using the bully pulpit and every other power I have to get Kentuckians the answer they deserve, and they and Americans deserve the answer. And listen, the Senate can't allow things like this to keep happening. We had a congressman who was away for a month without explaining it. This is a significant problem with Congress that's got to be fixed.
Yeah, if Senator McConnell is able to vote and negotiate legislation and direct his staff, then proving it should be pretty straightforward for these friends. And there really is no reason for the Republicans to want to be down a seat in the Senate, is there, Governor?
There is not. They are losing votes right now. They've got committees that can't meet. There were times that I would say the business of America isn't continuing, but you know what? Right now, the business that they are doing to America is so destructive. There's one of the few times that them not being able to meet is a good thing in my mind. It means they can't meet to support the latest crazy idea that Donald Trump has. They can't meet and support him rolling over the Constitution. They weren't doing their job anyways. I mean, they're not being a check on the president like they're supposed to. So I guess being one person down just means they're doing even less than they were before.
Let me get one more call in before we hit our next break. Michael is calling from Texas. Michael, hello and welcome. You're on with Governor Beshear. Well, good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I have a little leeway like the other couple of callers.
Go ahead.
First of all, Governor, I do agree with you that a no vote right now is just as good as a Republican replace voter. I agree with that. But the question I want to ask y'all is this. I don't hear it talked about, but I hear about all the Muslims in Michigan that didn't vote because of Pamela Harris and Joe Sand on Israel.
Okay.
But I never, you know who the second most reliable voting blocks for Democrats?
Black men.
Black men.
And?
You never hear nothing. And I was telling Tom Hyman before the vote that because I'm down here in Houston registering voting, fighting my ass off. I've been fighting my ass off ever since contract with America with Newt Gingrich.
Much respect, Michael. Do you have a question for the governor? Do you have a question, please?
Yeah, I have a question for the governor. Let me get to it then.
Yeah.
And a lot of people believe this and taking it serious, Governor.
Tell us.
Are the Republican Party smarter than you guys?
Well, first, let me say thank you for fighting the good fight. I can tell how passionate you are. I really appreciate you trying to get out there and register people. And that passion, I understand the frustration. We are going to win and win big this November, but only if we make sure we appreciate every single vote and we don't take any of them for granted. That we recognize that this is not a perfect country and that we need to do better in so many areas, that we embrace in our party that diversity is a strength and never a weakness, and that we have teams around us that look like the country that we are serving, that everyone not only has a seat at the table, but is a part of the actual decision-making process, and that we reinstate some policies out there that we're trying to make up for decades of underinvestment, of racism, of inequality that prevented people from creating wealth. Now, when I think about how I try to create an inclusive Kentucky, one where we've created more jobs in our largest African-American communities, one where we built the first hospital in West Louisville, our largest African-American community, in 150 years. It's having a team of leaders that are already in those communities that know the solutions that need to be there, and is recognizing that I personally will never be able to feel the weight of racism, of the vestiges of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow, but I can listen, I can try to hear, I can surround myself with people who feel that deeply and who desperately want a better country, and then we can make the right steps to move forward together. That's the way I run, that's the way I govern, and I hope that's the way we can create a better America.
Governor Beshear, we have to take a very quick break. I'm so glad you're here to stick around with us for the rest of the hour. We have many folks who want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I have a few more about the McConnell saga. I do admire how you've been handling it, and I think a lot of Americans are going to get a bit of a civics lesson from the way you're conducting this. Let's take a very quick break, be back in just a moment, and talk more about leadership with Governor Andy Beshear. Our number is 866-997-4748. This is SiriusXM Progress. I'm John Fugelsang, and we have turned over the mic to Andy Beshear Presents here on SiriusXM Progress. Governor, a little Pat Benatar for you. It's good to have you back.
I always wonder with Pat Benatar how that angel got that leather jacket over those wings.
Have you ever met her? I got to interview her once. She's quite a lady.
I have not. She was at Bourbon and Beyond, a big music festival in Kentucky, and just missed her.
Well, listen, I'm grateful that you're taking all these calls about Mitch McConnell, and I do admire the way you've been conducting this and showing Democrats how to lead during a maelstrom like this. I've learned more about Section 152 of Kentucky's Constitution than I ever thought I would have to learn. But there's a lot of other things going on, not the least of which is your upcoming book, Go and Do Likewise, which I do want to talk with you about. And our caller, Dante from Washington, D.C., has a question about that. Dante, hello and welcome. You're on with Governor Beshear.
How you doing, John? How you doing, Governor?
What's up?
Yes, my question is, for your upcoming book tour, will you be coming in Washington, D.C. at all?
I am. We'll be there September 22nd. Our event is 7 p.m. at the Betts Theater at Georgetown Washington University. It's in partnership with Politics and Prose Bookstore, but I've got about a 2-week book tour for Go and Do Likewise, a book about reclaiming faith for good in public life, as opposed to how it's been used to divide people by this administration. It is not a memoir. It starts with a challenge I faced as governor or attorney general. It talks about my faith in living it out, and it talks about how the Trump administration has failed over and over to live up to basic human decency. We've also got book events in New York City, Philadelphia, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Charleston, Nashville, Detroit, Chicago, and Los Angeles. You can find out more at andybeshear.com. But I'm really excited about this, not because it's my first book I've published, which it is. It's just I hope that it can inspire people of all parties to get back to treating faith as faith, not something you manipulate for votes.
I also want to let folks know the governor will be at Betts Theater at George Washington University, not Georgetown. Dante, thank you very much for that call.
My apologies to George Washington University.
I do it all the time. You know, I'm thrilled about this because we've discussed this before. My book goes deep into this area. Donald Trump's second term has created such an opening for moderates and Democrats and liberals and progressives to reclaim the language of faith, compassion, humility, and service. I have many conservatives I love. I don't see the Republican Party fighting in this century for a single actual gospel teaching of Jesus on a policy level. Do you think we're at a great time for Democrats?
We are.
To remind people what Jesus actually taught rather than what men have made up in religion?
Oh, look at the big ugly bill, which is the most anti-Christian bill that I have seen recently. You think about Jesus and the miracle of the fishes and the loaves and each of the first 4 books of the New Testament. It is that important. Yet Donald Trump is stripping food away from now 11,000 Kentucky kids that have lost their SNAP benefits since that bill went into effect. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are going to go hungry, not having as much food. Jesus shared that food with everyone, thinking that on a basic level, in a time even of scarcity when he did this, that there should be enough for everyone. Or take when he said, "A doctor's for the sick." And I know he's talking about spirituality, but I think the words are important too. And the big ugly bill is going to shut down rural hospitals all over the United States to where people aren't going to have that access. They're going to be unhealthier. They're not going to live as long. These are 2 basic teachings of Jesus Christ that this Republican Congress and this Republican president has ignored. But I'll give you one other, and I go into this in the book. It's pretty personal to me. I lost a good friend of mine in a mass shooting, and that day I had to be governor. I couldn't just be a grieving friend. I knew it was a moment that we needed to come together, that our state needed to be united. Those families needed to know that we were behind them. I did that even while choking back my own emotions. After Charlie Kirk's death, Donald Trump went on stage. After Erica Kirk had delivered the golden rule in one of the most amazing ways, and I didn't agree with just about anything Charlie Kirk said, but Erica Kirk's moment where she talked about forgiving was a pretty Christian moment. Yet, Donald Trump walks out on stage and says, "Oh, I disagree with Charlie. I hate my enemies." Basically saying he does not believe in the golden rule and does the opposite. Not go and do likewise, quite the opposite. So a pretty personal book. I think it's one that people will really enjoy and find very different.
I'm so excited about it. I mean, what do you say to our conservative Christian friends who would say, well, no, caring for the poor is the church's responsibility, not the government's? I mean, I would direct them to Matthew 25. How do you respond when you hear folks say that's not the government's job?
I'm pretty sure that's what got Jesus to flip over the tables in the temple. And one of the only times that he got mad. And remember, Jesus spent time with the lost, the lonely, and the left behind, the lepers, the people that society would not accept, the people that they judged and looked down upon. I hope that conservative evangelicals will really think about that. Because when we're told to judge not lest ye be judged, there's no asterisks or exceptions. The thing that got Jesus most angry was people who thought they were holier than thou. And he spent his time with anything but.
Indeed. Let me go back to the phones. Let's go to Michael in the Bronx on line 2. Hello, Michael. Welcome. You're on with the governor.
Hi, Don, and hello, Mr. Governor. And, your timing is perfect because you want to add another gospel verse to all of this.
Let's do it.
16, verse 5, which Jesus said, be on guard against the teachers of the Pharisees. Would that not be the defining meaning of being woke?
Yeah, so that term does come out of the Bible. It's about opening your eyes, a spiritual awakening, and it's been turned pejorative by this Republican administration. But caring about each other is something that we should embrace. Now, empathy and compassion are critical emotions, and that doesn't make us weak. This is a president thinks that masculinity is bullying. I teach my son that masculinity is standing in between the bully and the person they're trying to pick on. That's how I've tried to serve as governor, and now my son is 6'3", 200-plus pounds. He's able to stand in between those two people pretty easily. But just the idea that faith of any type would be used to hurt people instead of help people is the exact opposite of what faith is supposed to be. And John, I'd never push my faith on people. I talk about it because it's my authentic why.
Right on.
I vetoed an anti-LGBTQ plus bill because I believe that all children are children of God and didn't want people picking on those kids, that we don't have to understand necessarily what someone else is going through, but it does help to listen to them and ultimately care about them in making the decisions we make.
Amen. What would you say, though, I'm with you all the way. I just wrote a whole book about this. Jesus was, you can't discriminate against gay people and claim you follow the Sermon on the Mount. What would you say to young LGBTQ Americans who feel rejected by churches or by religious communities?
I would tell them that God loves you, Jesus loves you, this governor supports you. You are perfect just the way you are. Make sure you take care of yourself during these really difficult times. But know you have allies out there, and you deserve to be you.
Right on. Let me go to Mike in Iowa City, Iowa, before the next break. Mike, hello and welcome. You're on with Governor Beshear.
Thank you very much. Hello, Governor, and thank you for everything you're doing in the positive column. I really appreciate your work. I am calling because in the flipping over the table, metaphor, it seems that we, the people out here who are trying to protect our rights, trying to protect, to push back against the bullies, trying to push back, we're calling our representatives, we are writing our representatives, and we're doing it a lot of times on a daily basis. I became an Iowa delegate at the convention, for the convention, because I want to show my sons that you're supposed to take care of, you're supposed to participate.
Nice.
This is your civic duty. Okay, so, Governor, it troubles me that, forgive me for saying it like this, because I really do appreciate what you're doing, but forgive me for saying it like this, but it seems like two strongly worded letters are not enough to be able to solve the Mitch problem. It seems like there should be more flipping over tables. And I don't know, maybe you're doing it behind the scenes, maybe there's like communication with, for instance, Senator Thune, but I'm not seeing a lot of table flipping, and it's making me flipping mad.
Mike, what?
I like you a lot.
Right, but what outcome would you like to have? The governor is not able to fill the seat himself.
Oh, I would like somehow for there to be a bigger battle, perhaps on your end, to prove that this guy is either dead or incapacitated to the point where they can't do anything. And that may mean more than two strongly worded letters. It might mean 7. I don't know what it is. I'm not.
I hear you, man. Okay, I think it was a great letter, but I get your point, Mike, and Governor. I want to let you respond because I'm sure you've heard folks expressing this emotion.
When I was saying it earlier, for Mike, I get it. He cares deeply about this country. He sees Congress doing terrible things, a Supreme Court tearing voting rights away from people, and he wants action. And I will tell you what, in Iowa, he and others are doing a great job. Rob Sand is going to flip Iowa and be the next Democratic governor of that state. Josh Turek is running a great race. So I get what Mike's feeling about me, but let me just say about him, keep it up in Iowa. You all are making a difference. I am trying to amp up the pressure, and I will continue to do so. And I get that a little more outrage may be needed. What I want to make sure, though, is that we don't lose our values along the way. I read an article where somebody said, I should do what Mitch McConnell would do on the other end. Listen, I want a better country than that. I'm in this because I think my kids deserve a country that's not broken, and I don't think we get there by being Democratic versions of Trump and or of McConnell. But I get that everybody wants to know his condition. An action that would create a special election might create a vote for all those things that Mike is worried about, might make them closer to that reality. But I am not stopping my calls for transparency because the people of Kentucky and the United States deserve to know how Mitch McConnell's doing and whether he has the capacity to continue to serve. Let me close out this answer by saying it's not just on this issue, but others. Let's make sure that when Republicans are doing something wrong, we are putting the vast majority of the attention on the person who's doing something wrong, and how if we were in that position, we do it right. Oftentimes in the Democratic Party, we want to blame a Democrat for something a Republican is doing wrong
Really true.
for not stopping them. And I don't mean it flippantly, but it's like not blaming the bank robber, but the security guard who didn't stop them from robbing the bank. So I don't mind the criticism. I get it. It comes with the job, and my job is to be the best public servant ever. So Mike and others, keep calling, keep telling me what you think, and I'm going to listen. But let's make sure that we don't overshadow what's going on here, which is Mitch McConnell's refusal to be honest with the American people, and John Thune's refusal to do his most basic job of ensuring that every senator has the capacity, or let's say Rand Paul's. Because I said earlier, he's dragged an 85-year-old Anthony Fauci and said, you must testify in front of the people of America, but he won't call on Mitch McConnell to do a 2-minute video for the same people.
Governor, before we hit our next break, I just want to say I would die a little inside if you began behaving like Mitch McConnell. I like you because you don't behave like Mitch McConnell. But if there's no communication from him in another week or another month, is your office simply out of options?
Well, you're never out of options because you always have your voice. And whether that was on CNN with Caitlin Collins last night, whether that's on Bloomberg, whether it is on the SiriusXM network, where I'm proud to have a podcast and hugely supportive of your show, I'm going to keep speaking out. And listen, there is a lot of pressure out there, and I've been a part of creating it without stepping out that first time and demanding it. I've now amped it up to where if he won't do it, I think he should resign, and we can see where it goes from there. But I'm trying to make sure I do the right thing in terms of transparency, but I also let people know that if we don't think this through, then it could end up hurting the direction of this country even more.
Yeah, I'm not having a huge desire to have a more rapidly right-wing person in that seat between now and January 1st, just speaking for myself.
And to each of the folks that are out there that are passionate about it, we also have an election in November for that seat. Charles Booker being the candidate.
Democrat.
Yep. The 6th congressional seat, which is the Lexington, has a candidate named Zach Denbo that can win that race and flip it over. I won that area in my statewide race by about 20 points. So it is really possible. So let's make sure that we actually get out there, we defeat some of these bad actors and put better people in place.
Let's take a very quick break. We'll be back in just a moment with more of your calls with Governor Andy Beshear live on SiriusXM.
When I was a child, my family would travel down to western Kentucky, where my parents were born.
This is SiriusXM Progress. I'm Judd Fugelsang. So happy to be joined by Governor Andy Beshear. Governor, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Good to be here and loving this music.
Yeah, you pick all the music, which I really appreciate. Who are we listening to?
That was John Prime.
The one and only. God bless him.
Not only an amazing artist that brought a lot of people to Kentucky. He passed away during the pandemic. And one of our first times that we could grieve together during a very scary time was over John Prine. And we all remember that day. We all feel it. And it became, in many ways, that song, one of our anthems to get through it.
Thank you for playing it. One of our finest songwriters. I want to go to Mike, who's calling from the great state of Colorado. Hello, Mike, and welcome. You're on with Governor Beshear.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I've been a John Prine fan since he was a mailman in Chicago.
Nice.
All right.
Governor, two things I'd like to say. Number one, you said earlier that the Kentucky Constitution gives you the right to appoint somebody to replace somebody like Mitch. I think you should go ahead.
He doesn't have that right. He doesn't have the right, sir. I'm afraid it's the opposite.
Okay. He said that he has a disagreement with the Attorney General over whether he can. I think he ought to take the Attorney General up and see. The other thing I wanted to say was, rather than term limits, we have term limits in Colorado, and with mixed results, we have some really good people that have been term limited out of positions where they were being really effective and doing the good things. I would prefer to see age limits. Nobody older than 75 for members of Congress and the federal judiciary. And that's coming from somebody who just turned 79. 79.
Happy birthday.
Mike, thanks for calling in, and I appreciate you doing what Mitch McConnell won't, calling and talking to the people of the United States. Let me respond to both. I hear you on age limits, and that's something that I think we could all consider. I see a Jim Clyburn, who is such a critical, important leader, and then you see what's going on with Mitch McConnell, and to be fair, has happened on other sides. So yeah. I think it's a valid discussion. And in the Democratic Party, or really between Democrats and Republicans, if we are having that discussion and we're discussing options, then we're moving in the right direction to make sure we don't see situations like this. So on your other question, whether or not I have the power to appoint or there's the special election, before I can do either, there has to be a vacancy declared by the Senate, or they will not seat that person. In other words, I could say that I'm doing something. The Senate would say, well, we have to declare the vacancy first, and ultimately not put them in that seat. And they could push this situation off even longer. But I get it, and I need to make sure that I'm explaining that, because that's why the pressure needs to be on John Thune, because I would have that opportunity to appoint if he'd just do his job and either show us that Mitch McConnell has capacity or admit that he does not and bring that up for a vote in that body. And we are seeing either a broken Senate or one that refuses to do its job in its entirety. And I hope we'll see Democratic senators start to make some noise on this too.
It's because of McConnell's allies in the Kentucky legislature that in 2024, we have this law that replacement senators have to be chosen by a special election. And again, there is no official vacancy yet, so nothing could be done. Let me go to Patricia, who's calling from the great city of Louisville. Welcome, Patricia. You're on with Governor Beshear.
Welcome, Patricia.
Hi, Governor Beshear. Oh, my gosh, it's so awesome to talk with you. Just, you're the most amazing human being. Anyway. No, you really are. I hope you consider running for president. Anyway.
No one's brought that up to him, believe it or not. It's never been raised to him.
Thank you, Patricia.
Oh, well, I doubt that. Anyway, I'm majorly concerned about the monster that's in charge of our country right now, and he's getting away with absolutely everything. And what I learned when I was in high school was there's a series of checks and balances, and there does not seem to be any checks anywhere. Apparently, Trump can do anything he wants, anytime, and nothing happens. What do we need to do, in other words, to gain control of whoever is in charge of checks and balances in Washington so that this man can be reined in?
Yeah, Patricia, I don't just say this because you're a Kentuckian, but you are exactly right. Our system of checks and balances is broken down in a way our founders never thought would happen. Because normally, even if people are of the same party, there is at least a pull back and forth between powers, say of Congress versus the president versus the courts. And we see it in Kentucky. You see my legislature trying to strip me of executive powers. You see me going to court, and we see that whole checks and balances working out. And while sometimes I get a good result and sometimes I might not in the courts, that's how it's supposed to work. And Congress isn't doing their job at all. Donald Trump is running rampant over the Constitution, violating people's rights, training ICE agents that they can go into somebody's home without a judicial warrant. By the way, when did the party of don't tread on me become the party of law enforcement can go into your house even when it's unlawful? When did the party of they're going to come take your guns then say if someone is open carrying, it's okay for ICE to hurt or even kill them? Congress isn't doing a thing. They're even letting him go to war long beyond what a president is allowed to do, all because they're scared they might lose their job. Meanwhile, he has already beaten 2 sitting Republican senators, so he runs over their dignity, and he doesn't come through on, I guess, his end of what they think the bargain is. And I want people in Congress that'll do the right thing and that have a spine that says this job isn't worth it if I've just got to grovel at the feet of Donald Trump. So the answer is we got to win.
On.
Democrats win Congress. Democrats win Congress. Congress is Congress again. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect. I hope they would get a lot done, but they would be the basic check and balance that we learned about in school. And then we're seeing a Supreme Court that is not only refusing to do its job, but has this shadow docket where they are making decisions without actually writing opinions. That takes me back to what the Court of Appeals used to do during the Civil Rights era in Kentucky, which sadly was to create unpublished opinions so that when they gave somebody a positive ruling that upheld their civil rights, that the next person couldn't benefit from it either. This is when the judicial branch is not doing their jobs, and because of that, I'm for term limits for them so that they can't game the system. We also need to elect better presidents that will put people who aren't so partisan up and then expect them to do their job as justices.
Let's take a very quick break, and we'll come back with a couple of final thoughts and a couple of final calls with Governor Andy Beshear. This is SiriusXM Progress.
Don't you dare go running down my little town where I grew up, and I won't cuss.
This is SiriusXM Progress. I'm John Fugelsang, and I only show up to work to hear what Andy Beshear has put on his playlist on any given day. Governor, thanks again for picking the music this hour.
Oh, excited about it. Excited to take a couple more calls, but mainly just excited that you and I can talk to the American people about what's on their mind, hear their frustrations. That's part of the job, and honored to have an opportunity to try to speak reason into the chaos we're currently seeing in our world.
I've seen you take some really tough calls, and I really respect the way you'll do it. Let me go to Nate in Maryland on line 6. Nate, welcome. You're on with the governor.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi there.
Hey, I got one hot question, man, that I got highly concerned about. I am highly concerned about is that when the term limit come around for voting, what will be the cause? I mean, what will be the poop behind the governors that's going to purge us off of the voting rolls at will? We already know the scoop. It can already happen. That's why we got Trump.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying to make it harder, Governor, any way they can, not just with voter ID to make it harder for folks to exercise the right here and there. They're trying to make it harder for certain governors to just wipe people off the rolls completely.
Oh, Trump says out loud he's trying to rig this election, which is ironic given that he thought he lost an election because it was rigged. I've never seen someone like Trump who will just say it out loud, from partisan gerrymandering, redistricting, to the SAVE Act. But the Supreme Court is shameful right now. Now, I got invited, one of the honors of my life, to the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma.
Wow.
That day, I got to walk as a Southern governor with the brave foot soldiers who are still with us, as opposed to that Southern governor who sent the law enforcement 60 years before. I got to meet these incredibly brave people who put their lives on the line for the Voting Rights Act that did so much for this country and allowed better participation, better representation. And I think a lot right now about what those individuals must feel like 60 years later when the U.S. Supreme Court guts so many of those rights. We are moving backwards when it comes to voting rights, and I hope that a Democratic Congress can undo a lot of this. I hope the next Democratic president will sign an executive order on voting rights as early into his or her term as possible. I know this. On my third day as governor, I restored voting rights to what's now 200,000 Kentuckians that had lost their ability to be a part of our great democracy. We need to see that on the federal level, too. Less fear sown by this president who wants to keep certain people from voting. Yes, we need secure elections, but we can do that in a smart way that doesn't eliminate someone's right to be a part of the United States and our governance.
Amen, Governor. At a time when we see creeping fascism, it's great to have someone who cares about a democratic republic at a time of Christian nationalism. I thank you for reminding politicians of the actual teachings of Jesus. And I encourage everyone to listen to the governor's excellent podcast. And Governor Andy, thank you once again so much for coming here and taking calls with the listeners live. It's really impressive, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, John. And as you know, the next episode is this we're doing right here. So you can also, on the next edition of the Andy Beshear podcast, hear from John Fugelsang.
Oh, man, I can't wait. Thank you so much, sir. We'll see you soon. Back in a moment with your calls. This is Progress.